You are listening to the Loida Lewis podcast, hosted by Loida Nicolas Lewis. She's a trailblazing businesswoman, leader, philanthropist, and the widow of Reginald F. Lewis, the visionary leader who was the first African American to build a billion-dollar company. With unparalleled determination, Loida Lewis has not only excelled as a successful attorney, but also shaped a billion-dollar empire. Following the untimely passing of her husband, Reginald F. Lewis, she took the helm of TLC Beatrice, carving her legacy as a successful business leader. Be inspired and learn from her as she shares her wisdom, the secrets to her success in both business, in love, and in life. Let's live, love, laugh, and learn. With your host, Miss Loida Lewis.
Welcome to the Loida Lewis podcast. Live, love, laugh, and learn with me. And today is the part 2 of how to create wealth. So for part 2 of how to create wealth, I have the great honor of introducing you to our eldest daughter, Leslie Malaika Lewis. She will talk to you about how to create wealth because she is in an exciting part of her life. So, welcome.
Thanks, Mom.
Leslie. Yes, thank you. Thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure.
Yes. So, if you don't mind, let me read your bio data for our listening audience.
Wonderful.
Leslie graduated cum laude from Harvard with a Bachelor's of Arts degree in Sociology. And she also has an MFA, Master of Fine Arts in Performing Arts from UCLA. Leslie has traveled to 5 continents, all 5, to perform a one-woman show that she created. It's called Miracle in Rwanda. That's based on the true story of Immaculée Ilibagiza, a survivor. So now, Leslie, that was the past. What are you doing now?
Well, as you know, Mom, I've started a new company in 2021 called MultiGenerational, also known as MultiGenerational.Black, the web address. And it's a registered investment advisor based in New York State. And the focus is racial wealth parity in America.
What from an acting career, how did you veer or move towards creating wealth?
Well, I had an experience where I was helping a cousin with something related to health, and I saw the disparities in how people, the kind of healthcare people receive just based on ability to pay, and it shocked me. And in that moment of seeing that, I had this vision, really, of how to help more people learn how to create wealth, especially African Americans, but also Filipino Americans in this country. And the basic concept is really simplifying is not quite the right word, but making stock market investing more accessible for the first-time African American or Filipino stock market investor. And I do that with something called the Investing Starter Kit workshop and process.
Did you do any, would you know how many in the African American community are stock investors?
Well, it's estimated that only 34% of the African American community invests in the stock market as opposed to 61% of their white counterparts.
Wow, that's a big, big difference.
It is.
Yes.
And the stock market is done properly, it's such a reliable vehicle for wealth creation. So I want African Americans and Filipino Americans to be able to participate and benefit from it.
Yes. And how are you, can you explain more? What is this kit that you're talking about?
Yeah, it's funny. My son asked, do I get an actual kit? Yeah. And the idea is there are basic things related to money and investing that everybody should know if they want to build multi-generational wealth. So the kit is 12 steps and 12 tools related to money and investing. And if you, these things can't be done overnight. Time is the biggest wealth creation factor for many people. For really, that's how money works, that time is what's most useful. So these are 12 steps and 12 tools meant to be used over the course of about 6 months to a year. And the very first step is to begin tracking the S&P 500. The S&P 500 is 500 of the biggest American stocks. Anyway, all of this is on my website. So MultiGenerational.Black or the Investing Starter Kit.Black, and people can watch videos on each step.
Well, what if somebody is 50 years old already and, half of his life, maybe a little more than his life is there, and this is the first time he's hearing about, I can invest in stocks?
It's never
so
too
what
late.
do you tell him?
Yes, you can, because I'm 50, as you know, and it's never too late. As long as there's breath in our body, we can still, learn and grow and make money, and put our money to work for us.
Why do you say multi-generational? What factor makes you think that in the Black community or Filipino, there is no passing on of wealth?
Well, that unfortunately is the case. I mean, especially with the Black community, there's multi-generational poverty, unfortunately. The cycle of poverty is hard to break. And so I named the company Multi-Generational because I want to break that cycle. And one of the tools, one of the steps, actually the 10th step, is to write your will, healthcare proxy, and power of attorney. And in the African American community, it's very challenging for people to write their will because it's sort of like, I don't want to think about that. And if I put attention on my death, maybe it will call it. But there are many other communities where actually the signing of a will is an omen for long life. And I remember when I signed my most recent will, because everybody, I believe every single adult has to have those documents, a will, healthcare proxy, and power of attorney, that I felt like a wave of relief, because it means that I know that my family, my 2 children, are taken care of if something, if the unthinkable, the proverbial hit by a bus happens. I've taken care of what's mine to take care of. And that's what I think everyone needs to know. So having a will is a way of creating multi-generational wealth transfer that is very important for people to pay attention to.
Well, creating a will, if somebody wants to create a will, I don't think, how does he or she goes about it?
That is a great question. There's a resource on my website, but also you can just go to freewill.com. I'm not related to them, but it's a resource that I found. It's a free resource where you can write your will. And the reason why it's free is because all of these charities are sponsoring it. So really a ton of like 400 or something, because what they do is if you choose to, you can have one of those charities be your last resource, like the takers of last resort. You don't have to do that, but it's a free resource where you can write your will. And you don't have to, to include your credit card information or anything. It's something that I found that's very helpful for people who don't want to do that. The best way to do it, of course, is to contact a trust and estates attorney and have them help you. But freewill.com.
Wow, that's excellent for those who are listening, because I have a very good childhood friend who died and didn't leave a will. And so the only heir is a granddaughter, and it took up to now, she has not been able to access her mother's mobile home because she didn't leave a will. So don't let the state take over your property, if you have any, for your heirs. That's excellent information.
Well, Mom, that's exactly it. That if people don't have a will, then the state decides what happens to their stuff, and you don't want to do that to your family and relative. It's not kind. It's like leaving a mess. So don't leave a mess. Be tidy. Leave your instructions.
Most of the time, wealth is created by buying a home. So, is there anything about that in your in the process of your teaching?
Yes, absolutely. That's tool 11 is researching home ownership and real estate investing. And so the reason why this is the Investing Starter Kit is because getting started with stock market investing, you can do it with as little as $5 in a Cash App account. Whereas real estate investing is a little more complex. Like, it's more expensive. There are ways of doing it with no money down. And I remember you working on that when I was a kid.
Yep. Everyone, you read my book, Nothing Down by Robert Allen.
Yeah, I've listened to Robert Allen. He's quite good. He's still doing it. And so there are ways of investing in real estate that people should research. But the reason why this is the investing starter kit, starting with the S&P 500, is because it's an easy way to start putting your money to work and getting a sense of yourself as an investor. Meaning that once people do these 12 steps and 12 tools, they'll get to know themselves, what their risk tolerance is. Like some people will see that they like the fluctuations of the stock market. Some people will see that they'd prefer something more like real estate where you can live in it or rent it out. But all of those things are things that take time to learn about oneself as an investor. So there are so many different ways that people relate to money, right? So the easiest or the most common way is being an employee. You get a job and someone pays you for your work. The investing starter kit is about making your money your employee and putting your money to work, and it will send you back some paychecks, is something that one of the people I study has said. So that's the idea, putting your money to work.
Well, as you said, many of the people listening are employees. And somebody will say, I only earn so much. How can I put something in the stock market? So what do you say to her or him?
That's definitely a very good point. So the 12 steps are meant to be taken over the course of 6 months to a year, as I said. And you don't start investing until step 11. The steps in between then set people up so that they can create more income, ideally, because it's true, in order to invest, you have to have extra income, but also have people look at their expenses and see where they might not be spending money that they want to. Like just to make sure everyone should track their expenses to know that their money is going where they want it to. So it's an easy thing, but sometimes you can see, oh, is it that important to me to have, takeout so much or whatever
Or to buy Starbucks every day, $5.
Yes, that's that's a common thing. The so-called latte factor, is that where you want to put your money? And if it is, great. But if it's not, that $5 can go toward an S&P 500 tracking ETF. And then it's making you money instead of losing you money.
Okay. I've heard of...
Just one thing I want to say. I said it's making you money. That was glib. Investing always comes with the risk of losing your money. Like it's actually really important that people know that when you invest, you can lose your money. That's true. But if you take the 12 steps of this process, it makes it less likely that you will be affected by the kinds of things that would cause you to lose money. And again, I can explain it more on my website.
Wonderful. Now, my other question is, people spend and spend. Wouldn't you recommend a budget for if they are earning something regularly as an employee? And you said track your expenses. But tracking your expenses, how does that relate to budget?
Well, so step 2 in the process is begin tracking your expenses. Step 6 in the process is add up what your life costs in a month, like just become aware. And then step 9 in the process is create a new money plan. And some would call that a budget, some would call it a spending plan, but it's basically look at how you've been spending your money and decide, is this how I want to spend my money? Sometimes when people hear the word budget, they get like, it feels like, it doesn't feel good. It feels like someone's telling me what to do. It feels like deprivation. And that's why we use the phrase money plan, because it's a plan for your money. Is my money doing what I want it to do? That said, I say this on my website, there's an app that I use that's quite useful called You Need a Budget.
And you need a budget.
Yes.
Is it you, letter U?
Yeah. No, the word
Y-O-U.
Mm-hmm. You need a budget. And what's great about this app is that you only budget money that you already have, meaning that you don't budget based on future earnings or like what you expect to have come in. You budget what you have and decide, is this doing what I want it to do? So like, am I spending how much I want to on my house, on my kids, on food? And you can make adjustments based on your value system. And that changes over time.
Okay. You say it will take 6 months to 1 year. Mm-hmm. How come there's a big difference between 6 months and 1 year?
Well, everyone's different. And people are at different level. Everyone has a relationship with money. And different relationships take different levels of attention. So someone who's really ready to go can finish it in 6 months. Somebody who has more resistance, it may take a year or longer. Everyone is different.
All right. So for those who are listening, 6 months of your life is not too much, even 1 year. And it's if you're going to school. Now, if they're going to school, what is the tuition? Or how much do they have to pay for the starter kit?
Oh, so the class is $97.79, and I teach it once or twice monthly on Zoom.
So aside from so you teach it monthly, step 1 to 12. Is that what you're saying?
In the class, they will learn, I will go over all the 12 steps and the 12 tools, and we'll take action on 1 or 2 of the tools and steps. And then they get a handbook and the recording of the class. And so it's a process that they can use. I now have a new product called Money Study Hall, which is a twice monthly 1 hour Zoom where people come and actually take practical action toward their goal of investing. Because what I found is that even just having the information is not enough. People need more support.
Wow. And this is all done through the internet?
Yeah.
Oh my God. And you're able to assist them?
Yes. I've seen miracles. Like it's been incredible watching people make change.
Wow. So that is excellent.
Thanks.
How to create wealth.
Yes.
As I have been reading that because of slavery, because of the bigotry and discrimination,
Redlining.
People have been, Black people have been excluded from buying good homes during those times.
Yes.
Or getting good jobs.
Yes.
And that's probably, and education.
Yeah.
So as your father have said, education is the key out of poverty.
It is.
Yeah,
He also said economics is the new civil rights.
that's right.
And
the
that-
year 2020s, we are now in the year 2024. Yeah, so we have to fight no longer, the right to vote is being challenged, but now it's how to become economically independent. Is
Yes.
that basically what you're doing?
Absolutely. Yes. Financial freedom is the goal.
Fantastic. Right. All right, everyone, you heard it. How to create wealth. You have heard the previous part 1 of this series with how Mr. Lewis, Leslie's father, my beloved Reginald Lewis, became a billion-dollar owner of a company, international. And he was raised by a single mother who married Jean Fugit and had 5 brothers and sisters, but they were not born with a silver spoon in their mouth. So Reginald Lewis did it, and now Leslie Lewis is teaching you how to do it, to create wealth. We have some questions here from those who have been listening. Okay, here are some questions, Leslie, from LC. What stops people from getting started with investing?
Trauma. I think that, especially for Black people in this country, literally African Americans, generational African Americans, our ancestors were money, right? Meaning names of people on balance sheets to secure loans, right? Because of the history of enslavement of Africans in this country that the country is founded on. That kind of trauma, that kind of intergenerational trauma filters down to a lack of trust in the institutions. And so that trauma has to be looked at. And the way that the Investing Starter Kit does that is through tools 1 through 3. Tool 1 is a money journal. I suggest that people get a new notebook and begin writing about their money journey in there. And then 2 is money excavations, which is to start to unpack, what do I believe about money? What do I believe about investing? A common thing that comes up for people is that money is the root of all evil, right? That's a belief. Lots of people have it because of the Bible. But the actual quote is, the love of money is the root of all evil. But if someone has this belief, money is the root of all evil, like who wants to make more of the root of all evil? That's challenging. Whereas if you look at it from the perspective love of money, and what I interpret that to mean is that feeling like money is more important than anything else, feeling like I'll do anything for money, that is, bad. But that's not what we're talking about here. Money is not evil or not evil. Money is just a tool. It's a resource that living in the country that we live in, living in the world as we live in it, it's just useful. And having enough of it is important for a stable life in the society that we live in. So overcoming those kinds of beliefs is part of the process of getting better with money.
Excellent. Did you hear that, guys? Love of money is evil, not the money itself. It's the love of money. That's great. Thank you. Thank you for that. Now from Reggie C. What is the best way to get rid of debt? Yes, good question, Reggie.
Well, it's interesting. Debt, if it's not a problem, it's not a problem, meaning some people are okay with paying interest on debt. I personally don't like debt. I don't like credit card debt, and because of, the two of you, I don't have to have credit card debt. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad. And let's be real, debt is how Dad did what he did, of course, meaning that sub-debt, like both of the companies that he acquired were bought through debt.
Borrowed money. That's called leverage buyout. You borrowed money and the company pays for it, which means frying in your own lard. That's what leverage buyout did, borrowing money.
Yeah, so debt properly used is very useful. But when people are drowning in credit card debt or student loans, things like that, it's very painful. And so actually step 6, I said step 6 earlier, but step 6 is assessing your debt, and step 8 is beginning to pay down your debt. And it's very important to pay attention to one's debt and make sure that it's manageable. And if it's not manageable, creating plans to pay it down. And there are many different ways of doing that. There are 2 methods that are most popular: the snowball method, the avalanche method. I talk about these on the blog, and you can just Google them. But these are different ways of handling debt.
Did you hear that, guys? All right, pay down debt, please. Otherwise, you'll be overcome. Thank you, Leslie. That is excellent. Now, the follow-up question from John V. Is debt your enemy or your friend?
Well, great question. As I said, with Dad, it was a friend, right? It enabled him to buy Beatrice. It enabled him to buy McCall Pattern and Beatrice with having, little money down and to leverage the debt. And Dad aimed to pay it off almost immediately, right? Like he bought TLC Beatrice, and it was 64 companies in 31 countries. And he sold off subsidiaries and centered the business in Europe. So when he sold off those subsidiaries for more than he paid for them, he was able to pay down the debt. So he was very wise in his use of debt. It was very thoughtful how he used debt. And so that's what I would encourage people, that if you have debt, be really thoughtful about it. What is the interest rate that you're paying? Why are you going into debt? So for an education, if people go into debt for their education, is the education that they'll buy with that going to be able to pay down that debt? I have a close friend who immediately paid down her debt after getting out of law school. And I really saw that she was very thoughtful about how she did that. So is it an enemy or a friend? If it feels burdensome, then it's not a friend.
Good answer again. Everyone, please listen. Don't let your debt be your enemy and overcome you. All right? You use it to create more money, not to use it so that you have a Louis Vuitton or, good shoes. Anyway, thank you.
What I'll say about that is that if that's what's important to people and it doesn't feel, and they're willing to pay the interest, that's fine. But if it feels like a burden, then it's not fine. And people have to really be thoughtful and put attention on how they're using their money, how they're using their debt.
All right. Be thoughtful, guys, on how you use your debt. Thank you, Leslie. Now from Hugh W. How can you get started with investing when you feel like you're living hand to mouth? Good question, Hugh.
So if people are living hand to mouth, that's a very painful position to be in. So tracking expenses, and income, trying to make that gap between how much is coming in and how much is going out widen so that there's more coming in than going out. And so that's either increasing income, which is step 3, or reducing expenses. So which actually doesn't happen in the steps. First, you just get aware. What's happening? Where is my money going is an important thing for people to understand. But step 3 is increase your income. There are so many different ways that people can increase the amount of money flowing into their life. And making a plan. And again, this takes time because people, it's hard to make change and it's hard to pay attention to our money sometimes. Again, that's going back to money trauma. But once people just relax and start to look at it and increase the amount of income coming in and stabilize the amount that's going out, then that creates a gap. And that in that gap, that's money that can be put toward investing.
Thank you. But I'll ask it because it's in my mind. How do you create income? You go to work 9 to 5, you have children to take care of, wash clothes, clean house. So how do you increase income? Can you give some example?
Sure. So in step 3, increasing income on the website, I give an example of an exercise that people can do, which is write down 101 ways of increasing your income. And so what that means, it's an opportunity to expand one's concept of how money can flow in. As I said before, sometimes people are just used to the method of, having a job and getting a paycheck, but you can have a side hustle. You can, you can sell some of the stuff that you're not using. You can create
on eBay.
On eBay, yeah, there are all kinds of online stores, opportunities, things like that. There are many different ways to bring in income. The concept of multiple streams of income is one that has made the rounds. And so each person has to figure out for themselves what makes sense to them. But writing down 101 kind of expands the mind and gives people, like you can ask back for loans that people have if you've given out loans, like gently request people to pay you back. Or you can create artwork. There's so many different ways. And one that I like is, and this is totally outlandish, become a cowhand.
What does that mean?
Or start a farm, start growing vegetables. They don't have to be realistic. It's just expanding the concept of what might be possible. Does that make sense?
That's absolutely, yes. Making your imagination run.
Yes.
And then maybe looking at yourself. If you are a good cook, maybe start selling some of the things that you're doing that everybody says, oh, this tastes good.
I know somebody who did that with dumplings. They're delicious.
All right.
So
okay.
That's it. Just basically, there are so many different ways of making money in this country, in this world. And so allowing oneself to start thinking, how might I create more? Maybe it's just asking for a raise. Maybe it's asking for a bonus. Maybe it's working extra hours. Maybe it's creating a new product that the company might sell. Like who knows what it is, but everybody has within them possibilities that can create more income.
Yes, or going to wholesale jewelry, custom jewelry. You buy it wholesale and you sell it retail. Yeah. That's another way.
I love it, Mom.
Yes, thank you. That's excellent. Now, another question is from Michelle R. Many from my generation who are just about to start adult life feel that we start out with so much debt that it's so daunting. What would you suggest to someone like me, a fresh grad, on how to make financially sound decisions? All right.
When people have a lot of student loan debt, it's very painful because if they don't have a job that's waiting for them, that student loan paid for, the education that paid for, it feels painful and hopeless. But I believe that every person can find within themselves a way to find their way out of that debt. And as I said before, there are programs for debt relief, and there's a 12-step program that helps people deal with debt. I think it's sort of a larger question of how people relate to their money and how they relate to the behaviors that they choose. And so if people are able to take the Investing Starter Kit workshop, it does have them reflect on how did I get in this situation and how can I move my way out of it?
Great. Can you remind our listeners again how do they get this starter kit?
So the website is theinvestingstarterkit.black or MultiGenerational.Black. And the Investing Starter Kit workshop is a $97.79 workshop. It's a 90-minute class taught on Zoom regularly.
All right, you heard it. MultiGenerational.Black. That's easy enough to spell. Get to it, guys.
Thanks, Mom.
Yes. So thank you very much. Thank you, Leslie. This was wonderful. And I'm sure that the listeners and the viewers have been benefited. So go get it, guys, the starter kit, and start creating wealth for yourself and your family.
So Mom, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. And to anybody watching, listening, I'm so glad that you listened to what is here. And I want everybody to know that it's not hard to get started with investing. Sometimes people feel like they have to know calculus in order to get started, and you don't. If you have enough information, if you know how to make change for a 20, you have enough to get started with investing. So this is my permission slip to you to do what you need to do to figure out how to go with money and investing, how to make your financial freedom dreams come true.
Wonderful. Leslie, thank you very much. And I'm sure all the listeners are saying, God, I'm so glad I tuned in. So for those of you who have other questions to ask, just email askloidalewis@gmail.com. This is Loida Lewis Podcast. Live, love, laugh, and learn with me. Thank you. God bless.
The Loida Lewis Podcast, hosted by Loida Lewis, is produced by the creators of Over a Glass or Two, Jesse and JV. Executive produced by Loida Nicolas Lewis. Rate and review us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts for a chance to be featured on a future episode. Have a question for Miss Loida? Just email us on askloidalewis@gmail.com. Your question might make its way to a future episode. Subscribe on all major platforms to never miss a beat. Thank you for listening to the Loida Lewis Podcast. Let's live, love, laugh, and learn together